Like many people these days, you may wish to travel not only efficiently, but conscientiously. We're speaking to Irene Lane. She's with Greenloons, True Green Family Travel. They're a travel company that focuses on environmentally friendly travel. And you, Irene, have assembled a list of the top 10 eco-friendly destinations in the world. We're going to run through the top 5 quickly. At number 5, you have Botswana. Why Botswana?
Well, Botswana is an interesting case. They've made it a concerted effort approximately a decade ago to differentiate themselves from South Africa by focusing on ecotourism. And with that, more than 17% of Botswana's land area has been set aside for national parks, with another 23% for game reserves. And that's 40% of a country that's roughly the size of Texas, setting aside that area, thereby creating one of the highest game concentrations in southern Africa.
Is this a fairly new movement on the part of Botswana? Have they come around to this only in recent years?
Not necessarily. Back in 2008, they actually started to introduce what is one of the most comprehensive ecotourism certifications in the world. The certification is a voluntary program that's open to all hotels, lodges, tour operators, regardless of their size. And in general, these tourism suppliers are judged on hundreds of criteria that cover sustainable management policies, responsible marketing, visitor experiences, direct and indirect contributions to conservation, including educational efforts, local community, social and economic benefits, and of course the minimization of negative impacts on the environment.
In Botswana also they have campouts and safaris, but a safari isn't what we may think of when we hear that term. Is that right? There's a different modern definition.
Exactly. A long time ago, safaris used to mean that you'd have like 100 people, including hunters and cooks and porters, that would walk through a region. And then with the advent of cars, the group numbers significantly decreased, but you still had to be entirely self-sufficient because there was no real backup plan in case of an emergency. But now you have permanent tented campsites that are set up at strategic locations throughout, for example, the Okavango Delta. So travelers can spend the day driving through an area and then the night in very, very comfortable conditions.
At number 4 is Belize. They have, according to your list, 87 distinct types of ecosystems. That's an unusually large number, I would think.
It is, and ecotourism and ostensibly agriculture represent the lifeblood of Belize's economy.
In Belize, as well as in some other destinations, they have these eco-lodges. What exactly are those?
At a basic level, eco-lodges are accommodations that protect and conserve nature, benefit local communities, emphasize conservation education both to their guests, the tourists, as well as to their employees, so that future generations can retain their cultural heritage and appreciate the natural environment.
Also in Belize, 150 identified species of mammals. That can include the pocket size as well as those who might be bigger than your house, I imagine.
Indeed.
The Philippines are at number 3. Now, most of us may not think of the Philippines as being an eco-friendly destination, but they are. And in particular, Palawan Island. Do I have that pronunciation correct?
That's right, yes.
What's economically, or I should say environmentally friendly about Palawan Island?
Palawan Island has a distinction of being the biggest nature reserve in the world. It's actually 3 different islands collectively. Together they're known as Palawan Island. And it's a gorgeous landscape that provides a sanctuary for a wide variety of flora and fauna. Within these islands there are beaches, waterfalls, hot springs, dive sites, caves, forests, mountain ranges. It's pretty extraordinary.
Also, wildlife, a big deal in the Philippines, as in Belize. What kind of wildlife would we see in the Philippines that may be indigenous or exclusive or just kind of unique to that particular area?
Absolutely. Travelers can swim with whale sharks, discover endangered sea turtles. There's a rare Philippine eagle for all the birders out there, and just discovering the Mount to Sea ecosystem of the Puerto Princesa Subterranean River National Park.
In Borneo, one of the big attractions is the gorilla reserves. Is that right?
Yes, indeed. And the jungles and beaches and caves enable a habitat where you have wild boar and orangutans and elephants, kingfishers, proboscis monkeys. There's lots of, and a particular emphasis on orangutans actually for rehabilitation.
In a place like Borneo, what's their infrastructure like? Have they developed themselves in that way to a high degree to accommodate ecotourists?
They actually try and emphasize for smaller groups. So that's part of the reasons why it's one of the up-and-coming list of attractions. So I think from an infrastructure perspective, it's still evolving. But from a traveler's perspective that wants to see relatively untouched areas, it's a dream.
So to arrange one of these tours, I would necessarily have to go with a group, or is it possible to see some of these areas in some of these countries as a couple or solo?
You certainly could. What the advantage of a small group does, and what I mean by a small group, it's 10 people or less, is that you have the advantage of going with a local experienced guide and go into some pretty unique areas that otherwise as an independent traveler you may not see, and participate in some unusual activities.
And one that kind of surprises me, it's number one on the list, no less, would be Jordan, which many of us may think of as just endless miles of desert, but there's a lot more to it than that, right?
Absolutely. Deserts are ecosystems too, and Jordan is really embracing the concepts of conservation and green adventure and eco-friendly accommodations. To date, there's 6 wildlife reserves, including the Dana Natural Reserve, and 6 more are in the works.
And also, Jordan's a good place to see remnants of the ancient world.
Indeed. Some top sites that might be familiar to your listeners are Wadi Rum and Petra, which is in the Great Rift Valley. And Petra was recently named as one of the new wonders of the world. So all the Indiana Jones fans might remember, all the different scenes there. And it offers a real adventure to travelers that can interact with very friendly and nomadic Bedouin tribes, go on camel safaris, visit crusader castles, and perhaps access ancient maps of the Holy Land.
That's Irene Lane of Greenloons, True Green Family Travel, on her picks for the top 5 eco-friendly destinations on the planet. Irene, where can we go on the web to find out more about these destinations and about your company?
www.greenloons.com.
Irene Lane, thanks a lot for taking time.
My pleasure.